Hello and welcome. My name's Doug Gordon and I'm host of the show, Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories, where the aim of the show is to interview inspiring people who've either been successful in their field or inspired others to success in some form. Today's guest is Richard DiPilla. Richard is the founder of the Life Lessons series and the founder of the Global Goodwill Ambassadors Foundation, whose mission is to spread goodwill by highlighting good humanitarian work throughout the world. I've been following Richard's work for almost 8 years now, and the inspiration he shares touches people's hearts with positivity and love throughout the world. He's been honored with numerous awards, including for helping protect human rights, protection of children, and as a World Peace Ambassador twice. He really is a true inspiration and a pleasure to have on the show. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Doug. It's a pleasure to be here. Good to speak to you again.
Likewise, it's an absolute pleasure. I've been obviously following you for some time, and your posts are inspirational, and you've been basically sending inspiration out to so many people across the world. And I think Global Goodwill Ambassadors now has over 500,000 members, which is incredible, which you obviously started up or co-founded as well. Tell us a little bit about how you went, though, like a sales and marketing person like myself originally, to now inspiring so many people.
Yeah, sure. I was in California, in San Francisco, when LinkedIn got started. So a lot of people I knew there were instrumental in the starting of LinkedIn, and mentioned to me, hey, you ought to be on this thing. And I was working there in San Francisco at the time at a broadcast station, and I got on and said, well, what kind of medium is this? And I said, oh, it's for recruiting and helping people get jobs and stuff. So I said, well, I'm not currently recruiting or helping people get jobs, but I'll hop on, and that sounds like a nice platform. So that was like back at the basic inception of LinkedIn. And what I found was that it was it took me a couple of years to actually do this, but I found that it was a good medium, a good professional medium, as well as a place that I could share some things and thoughts of my own on there. And I just kind of kept developing it and putting out posts that were non-conventional to the core of LinkedIn, but something that I could share my voice with. And so that's pretty much the onset of how I got started into that. And then I had this one thing that happened when I was reaching out to people, because I thought, hey, this is really, really cool. I mean, I'm talking to people all over the world within a couple of years, when it was expanding. And I remember having this almost life-changing perspective on people around the world. And that was a conversation I had with a woman who was in Iran. And, being the kind of person I am, who's inquisitive, I wanted to ask some questions, one of the questions I asked, which I will say that she responded with a laugh, which was good. I said, like, why is your country always saying death to America? And she laughed and said, well, that's governments act the way that governments act, but that doesn't mean that that's the heart of all the people, and I said, really? And then she started to tell me that every weekend she went and visited an orphanage, and she was such a nice person, and I said, you go every weekend? She said, yeah. She said, well, I went once, figuring I'd do it one time, and then the kids were all so great and said, won't you come back? Won't you come back? And so she started coming back, and it became a weekly routine for her. And I used the opportunity at that time to say, you know what, if I had these preconceived notions, and I was much younger, and but I mean, I thought maybe other people did. So I put up a little post, and I said, I was talking to, and I won't share her name now with you, but and she's such an inspiration to me and really changed my perspective. She does all this great work. She works at orphanages and stuff, and I felt like I should highlight some of the things that she is doing. And I just randomly said she's a Goodwill ambassador. And that was the start of Goodwill Ambassador. And I thought that's probably all it would be. I had no intentions of doing that on a regular basis or anything like that. But something really strange happened. On LinkedIn at the time, let's say I had a couple thousand people that were following me then, or I was following them as well. It was kind of a reciprocal thing. And I would get 4, maybe 5 a week on comments or questions back to me. It wasn't anything I wasn't expecting more. It wasn't something that was going to be. Never thought LinkedIn be a big part of my life, but I woke up the next morning and I had like hundreds. I can't remember, maybe even near 500 messages. So I thought, wow, did he celebrate my birthday or something? It was right around the time of my birthday. And it was all these people from all over the world thanking me for highlighting the people, of this nation and area, something that truly a message they wanted to get out and couldn't get out. And that was a dawn of an idea, and that turned into Global Goodwill Ambassadors, that ended up turning into a bigger organization as some really great people said they wanted to help. Lisa Jones came in really early, and we kind of like co-founded the organization, so to speak, and later became a foundation, a 501c3, and we built country chairs and had groups all over, and still do, and have groups all over the world, and never with any intention of any financial gain. It was just purely to share goodwill between people, and to this day, that's what we are, and it makes me like wonder about some other organizations that have like really high internal costs that they have to cover with huge buildings and flights and stuff like that. How much of a donation that you make goes to people? Because we always took the same. If somebody sent us $100 for orphans, we sent $100 to the orphanage, that we picked, and still do, so we're a pure. When you say nonprofit, we're a pure nonprofit foundation. The LinkedIn Life series was just, now that Lisa's pretty much running that whole thing, it's just something that I wanted to do now that I've retired after working for nearly a half a century. And I learned so many lessons, most from mistakes that I made, or ways that I've corrected and adapted who I am now based on the knowledge that I gained from those faults and mistakes. And I just wanted to share them, and found some other good people that, similar to me, are seasoned and have great experiences. And we formed a small little group, and that's what we do. We share the life lesson series. And so that's the whole cycle to where we are today.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And just for people who are listening, just to get an idea, I'm in Dublin, in Ireland, and I know 2 other Global Goodwill Ambassadors in Dublin as well. And I was honored with a Global Goodwill Ambassador Award back in 2018. And it was because I was doing some mindfulness meditation and kind of personal development classes for free. Well, not for free. I was charging people, but then giving it to the homeless. And one radio presenter who interviewed me had been to one of them, and then he recommended me, and that's how I won it. And then I know someone else who won it through, he unfortunately lost his child at birth, and he became an absolute inspiration trying to help other people with similar types of things. So it's really good to see that, the people that I know who actually have them really kind of deserve them as well, because they really do go out there and try and help as many people as possible. So it's lovely.
Oh yes, yeah. There's criteria to become a member, and the criteria is not based on academics. It's not based on any any kind of subset other than somebody who is doing inspiring humanitarian work, and in many different fields and in many different ways. People inspire differently and stuff. So that organization now is in every country and every territory across the world, has a broad reach, and it's very thriving. And highly recommend. It's a 501(c)(3), so it's tax deductible donations. Put out a monthly newsletter that Lisa puts together and sends out on LinkedIn, and it also highlights the people in it. So it's a very nice publication, that is an e-publication and also available in hard copy as a magazine. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I've read it and it's brilliant, and I have to say it is very informative as well. And you've obviously, through the Goodwill Ambassadors and what everything you do in the world, and you've come across a lot of different humanitarian causes and everything like that. And I did mention to you this last time that I asked you this question: is if you had a magic wand, like you were a genie, what would you try and really change in the world to make it a better place?
yeah, well, for one thing, the ultimate goal would be to stop wars, and stop hating each other. I mean, I'm still baffled by why why us as humans who have evolved so much, but there's been evolution since the beginning of time. I mean, the creation of the wheel, all the way up to machinery and printing presses and the industrial revolution. There's been great changes that have taken place. So that's been constant. And now it's digital age with AI and all this. All that has kept pace. But I don't think that humankind has kept pace from where it was during, let's say, the Roman Empire area. There were a lot of barbaric acts take place. Well, today there are still a lot of barbaric acts that take place. I don't know if it's any more or less in in correlation, but I don't think that we have evolved as much as we have with our industrialization and our change, and that perplexes me. Um, I'm wondering what the catalyst is, and if anything, in our life lesson series and with Global Goodwill Ambassadors as well, um, we're trying to push people. So there's the magic wand, and take notice of what I'm seeing and say, look, it all starts with one person, each person. So if you're living a good life and you don't share hatred, that minimizes the ultimate result, which ends up being conflict, battles, war, bullying, you name it, all the things that take place in the world. And I just think we can do a better job with it. So my magic wand would be for us to get past that and to shrug off things and make amends, and more diplomacy, more talking, and less default to weaponry of any sort.
I agree. I agree. I think a lot of it, as you said, from Roman times to now, and probably from dawn of times till now, is a lot down to maybe, I think, children at children's age when a parent is not there, or they feel they haven't got the attention of a parent, or they're abandoned. They feel hurt inside, and they sometimes project that out to others. And I think if we could in school really implement something like emotional intelligence in terms of conscious communication, self-awareness, empathy, compassion, self-love, and a state of inspiration, that might just help a little bit. Because then when we have self-love inside, the only thing hopefully that we'd give out is love rather than hurt. I think that might be something.
That's brilliant. And what you just said there can't be minimized to just your thoughts. Um, that's probably the key. There's there's catalyst, and the children are, each generation should be should be moving forward. And we're at a state now where younger generations are feeling helpless, hopeless, loneliness. Um, Suicide rates are still very high, and the incidents that occur in schools and different things like that. I I really think that the educational part does does need work on at the very beginning in the earliest stages, because I don't know about yourself, but I have as you get older, your memory goes a little bit. But one thing that hasn't for me is I have a solid recollection of my youth, going back to an early days, like when I was just, like 2 years old. I could remember things that occurred. And sometimes people say, "What? How can you remember those things?" I don't know, but I held on to those things. And I think they're inside of everybody. They're our
Mm,
first indelible impressions that are made on us and form us in life. So children at a very early age need to hear all of the things that you talked about and need education with that way. And that's why our groups focus a lot on children, and like Global Goodwill Ambassadors, you know, definitely on orphan children, because they have a need. They don't have the role models, and domestic violence, and um, they're the things that we try to concentrate on. Um, they're not, unfortunately, they're not the money things, or you would think people are putting a lot of dollars into that, but a lot of the organizations are not set up to focus on the things that are some of these subjects, like sex trafficking. It's almost like that they don't want to hear about it. They don't want to
mm,
talk about it. It's almost foreboding to speak about sex trafficking. And I I don't understand why. It is a scourge on humanity, and yet it goes on and gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's got to end. You know,
100%. Yeah, 100% agree. And you mentioned childhood, and I know we've talked before about your childhood, and it's amazing how much an inspiration you are, because I know you lost your dad at an early age. I think you were only 4. But tell us a little about, I mean, 'cause your mum was a complete inspiration and really held like a rock to keep you to be the man you are today, because, losing a dad at that age must have been really tough for you.
um, it was, and for a long time, I remember thinking, like through my teens and stuff, I couldn't understand um, how a man as wonderful as he was, who used to, electrical engineer, he used to go to work and he'd come home and he'd always have these little scribbled cartoons that he'd do for each of us 3 children, because my fourth brother was, my mother was pregnant when my dad passed, and he would call us. He had squash bucket number 1 for my older brother, squash bucket number 2 was me, and my sister was squash bucket number 3. And he'd draw these little cartoons, bring out some candy every day, candy or a toy, something, and bring to us. And I remember the glee with that. And then it would, like, we would all go to read our little things and everything, and all look over and see the wonderful way that he would embrace my mom, and and just hug and just tell her how much he loved her. And, that's the environment that I grew up in. And, with my mom passing, I'm sorry, when my dad passed at that age, my mom had to raise then 4 children, and so many people supported her and helped her. She ended up uh, getting a position at the rectory in our town, which was a big deal because the if the town had 3 or 4 thousand people, almost all of them were members of the church. So if you she was the person who did all the collections and auditing and of the books and sent and made out the church bulletin and formed the altar and rosary society and these different. Every church probably has somebody like her that's there. But my mother took it a step further. She personally met with almost anybody that wanted, anybody that needed something actually, at the rectory, and she became the go-to person for when people had heartache in their life. And if somebody would pass in the town, she would you know send condolences to them or give condolences, recommend mass cards, and she would tell them, you don't have to worry about anything. I'll call a funeral home for you and set up everything, and I'll call you back and let you know when to go in. And knowing and seeing and watching the way people loved her for what she did, there was a lot of love in the house. You The house was always like an open house. Everybody was welcome. You had friends. Let's let's go to your house. Why? Because my mom would feed them. My mom fed everybody that came in. You had to eat. It was a way of acceptance. Maybe that's an Italian culture thing. I don't know, but she just fed people when they came in. So the house was always full of people, uh, and they always had good food. And best compliment you can give her was to eat well.
I think that's very much so for Italian and Irish families, which is lovely. And obviously it's amazing. Your mum obviously was an absolute rock and an absolute superstar because you can see it in you and what you're doing today. And you've had a world of wisdom over your many years now. I don't know how old you are. I'm not going to ask. But over many years, you've had a world of wisdom and learnings and met so many different people and experienced so much of life. If you were to meet with your younger 18-year-old self, what advice would you give to that young man now that you know what you know today?
That's a question that I have thought about with some regret, and that is, like I always had a lot of energy and always felt like I would succeed in things that I do, and that wasn't as much about ego as much as I always wanted to emulate the hard work that I saw and learned as like in my family. And when you come from poverty, you you want to do better. Like I wanted to help support like my family and certainly my friends and things. So I jumped into work right away. When I say right away, I mean I was working cutting lawns when I was still um, under 10, like 8 or 9, and then a paper boy, and then a bus boy, and you name it. I had a job. I was working. So I started working, and when I went to school for journalism, communications, and went into the broadcasting area and worked at the one of the first Fox stations in the country. Um, just moved moved up the ladder, and so I have no regrets about having a successful career, but I believe that I should have done what I did on my own. I should have done something myself. I should have at least given it a try when I was my 18-year-old self, because that would have been a great experience. Even if I failed, I know it would have been a great experience. And I would highly recommend that today, to any young person. We live in a good country. We live in where you can take advantage of, and it's probably true of most countries. If you want to succeed, starting early, you can. You just have to put that same effort you would on yourself, and that means learning to love yourself too. Without being a narcissist or an ego, but just hard work at a young age. So that would be a regret going back. Other than that, I don't dwell too much on the things that could have been, because I have no problem with how my life has been. Like, I've been blessed, and um, you know you can't go backwards. And as you get older, you wish you could, but you can't.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think just what you mentioned there in terms of taking that step and maybe moving out of a corporate job into doing something that you're really passionate about yourself. I do agree. I did that myself. And I have to say, just for anybody listening out there, it's not easy. There is a lot of failures, as you say. But I think when I'm 95 years of age, looking back, I'll have no regrets. At this point in time, I do miss, the stable income and everything like that. But at the same time, it is something. Even I had a client just this week say that they were worried about leaving their job to set up a business because of the exact reasons that you said. Fear is the one. And, so I get it. We're human. And, accepting that human side of us, but maybe taking that step into the unknown. And remember that fear stands for false evidence appearing real, might just help you step through it. But no, that's brilliant. And one of the things you mentioned there actually is, in terms of, you mentioned children earlier on, and one of the big pandemics, we also mentioned loneliness as well, is mental health. And, look, getting children to, have better mental health, adults to have mental health. In terms of your own mental health, how do you look after yourself, and what tips can you give people to keep yourself as positive as possible?
Well, obviously, I really enjoy spreading messages and giving giving out giving out some advice. I call it more like fables, because I do little videos, and then we'll try to do a correlation that when I write the text, a correlation to a different lesson that was learned. And that's, I use a lot of animals and babies, so that I'm in the videos. Young children. I I use those so that it's it's non-binary. It could be for anybody. And mental health today is a grave issue. I mean, it really, really does need to be taken care of, because it will get you, if if you address that when you're young, just like anything else, if you do it, you can really change someone's life. If you get into a pattern, it usually leads to bad habits and addictions and all things that just exacerbate it. And then you reach a certain point where you give up. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to take your life or anything, but you basically give up on any notion of moving forward. So it doesn't matter when you make that decision. You made a decision to go into your business, later in life. It doesn't matter when. It's all about the passion, and you believing that you can succeed if you work hard. The if you work hard is something that you have to decide on. And that's for any of the things we talk about. They all can be overcome. Fear can be overcome. Loneliness can be overcome. Any of the topics that drive people into bad habits, they all can be overcome if you know that you have to constantly work on it. It's not just a saying, it's something you have to actually work on.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you have so many amazing posts. And I think one of them I saw was on a gratitude. And I always say gratitude is an amazing thing because when you're grateful for what you have, the good and the bad that you've created in your life, you almost open your subconscious mind up to receive more good. So if you can be grateful for everything and keep away from that complaining, it can also help. You've got so many. I've seen posts lately on the dad relationship, on gratitude, on forgiveness, on loneliness. What are you most passionate about? What kind of subjects are you most passionate about at the moment that you're talking about online?
Well, what I'm trying to do is to, when I see something in a short video clip or something, a lot of times it's a longer clip, but I see one section of something and it emotes to me. I have a feeling. So that's a feeling of friendship, it's a feeling of love, it's a feeling of enjoying animals, it's whatever it is, whatever the feeling is. I try to center my whole thought and my whole post on that. I try to like capture the magic of the feeling. What made me smile? If it makes me smile, it probably would make anybody smile. Um, if it makes me feel joy, it will probably make anybody feel joy. So that's the concept that I had developed without even thinking about it. I wanted to get out good positive messages, and I've been very fortunate. I mean, my LinkedIn followers exploded. You know, like I have one time I had over 2 million, and then LinkedIn made some changes and now I have like 1.3 million. But it's not as many followers as you have as what your messages reach, because I've had messages that have reached 25 million people, a lot of them that have reached 20 million people. You know, so when you compare that to a network audience, even a global network audience, that's a, that's a sizable reach. So I'm not only giving a message, I know the message is reaching a lot of people, and you know if it helps one, I mean, how many people are nearing the end of their time can say I helped X amount of people or even helped one. But I want that to be the thought that I have. I want that to be thought my that I hope would be a legacy, that I work to help other people.
No, I love that. And you do. And you're so right because even just helping that one person become happier creates a happiness in the field of all the people around them as well, because they emanate that love, that happiness that the next person does. And it's almost like a knock-on effect. So don't ever underestimate anybody who's listening today, the effect you can have just helping one person and going out there and doing that. And the gift of giving to others is one of the greatest gifts we can give to ourselves in terms of our own mental health. And I can see that's why you continue to do it, because that's why I do it as well.
Yeah, we share that same passion. I know from our conversation talking before, and your podcast and is geared towards the same thing, which which is why I mentioned to you that I've turned down. I'm not looking for accolades. I've turned down a lot of podcasts that are very big podcasts, and mainly because their focus wasn't, well, I didn't want anything focused on me. You know, I mean, I wanted it focused more on the messages that I put out. You know, like I don't need or want more followers. I don't count the number of clicks and stuff like that go by on a daily basis. You know, like I just say, am I doing good, and then it's my message getting out to people. And I agree with you. It's exponential. If you reach somebody, I mean, that would be a lovely thing for us all to be addicted on, making friendships.
Oh, 100%. And I'm incredibly glad to have had the honor of interviewing you, to be able to make this friendship, because as I said earlier on, gratitude is the attitude, and I'm so grateful for you, Richard. And one of the things actually in your gratitude post, if anybody hasn't seen Richard's posts, you've got to see them. One of my favorite ones is the gratitude one, but there's also one, a lovely one about a dad who the daughter is talking about the dad, how she remembers as a child he would drop shells, and she didn't know, but he would drop the best shells he could possibly find earlier in the day in the seashore, and she'd go, "Oh, look at these, Dad!" And he would kind of gleaming in his eye, going, seeing the excitement in her. And then she only realized because he then did it with her children as well. And it was one of the most heartwarming things to see him dropping these shells and then seeing the kids coming up with this absolute glee in their face as he does that. And these are the kind of amazing posts that you put out there. And I have to say, I've watched that, I've shown that to my partner, I've shown it to my son. It's brilliant. Absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant. So, and actually linking that into the gratitude and linking what that post really says is what's lovely about that post is just the simple things in life in terms of being able to be on the sea and see the sea and the sand and the grandad, or being able to hear the whistle of the wind and the little waves lapping up, or being able to, smell the dew in the air, or, smell a rose, or, being able to taste chocolate. These five senses are the basic things in life that actually are the things that we should be most grateful for. And if we can have gratitude for basis things like that, you sometimes can make yourself much happier in everything else that goes on in life. So I have to say, I'm so grateful for all your posts, and I'm so grateful for all the good for you've been doing in the world as well.
Well, that's one of my favorites for all the reasons that you said. And there was another kind of subliminal message there, was that the the narrator of the post was actually, it was her grandfather that was doing this, and she was 37 years old now, and remembering that her dad, who I don't think is with her anymore, used to do the same thing. And it reminded me of family and tradition as well. Like, it's hard to cover a bunch of different messages in it, but I think I touched on that in the message too, that, carrying on positive traditions. I think all families probably have that. They have things that are done in their family that were brought by the grandfather to their parents, and it's a way to carry out family tradition and keep those kinds of elements of a family as part of a family. So I'm glad you mentioned that post there. Like, I think I do one at least every day. So, but that one had a lot of great elements to it, and I know it's uplifting to watch. Like, I mean, it's not for everybody. If you're there looking for a job, please look for a job. Like, I mean, if you're looking to hire people, hire people. I say, you know what though? Take time out. I have some messages here, and even if you're a recruiter, if you're a person, you might need a smile. You might need to see something nice. Look how busy you are, Doug, but you see my post. It means at a certain point in time, as hardworking as you are, you don't work 100% of the time. So the people on LinkedIn are all people. And what I further say, people would say, well, I don't get this as much, but I used to early on. People would say, well, is this the right platform for it? I said, are you a human? Like, I mean, it is, all people you can do two things at once, but if you're looking for a job, that's a lonely thing to do. I've lost a job twice.
Mm.
You feel it, it's something you have to hop back up and get going again. You need inspiration. So take inspiration wherever you can get it from. It doesn't have to be from me, but if you can find somebody that inspires you or makes you feel better about your situation that you're in, brings you some laughter and joy, please seek that out. And I hope more people will start doing it. I would love to see more and more people, and there are. We have a group. I mean, our Life Lessons team, it's about 22 people. They're all volunteers. There's no money involved and everything like that. we just all look for each other's posts and like to see what we're doing, and then we have a little group there in on LinkedIn, and we chat about them. And oh, I found this great thing. That sounds wonderful. There's nobody in charge. I'm not the boss. I happen to start it, but it's we're all in the same plane, and that's always been true, even with Global Goodwill Ambassadors. If we didn't have we only functions that were ever set up were set up for expedience. It was never for domination over somebody. So
Yeah, I love that. And I always say that when you put yourself in the energy of something, you bring more of it to you. And if we can watch more loving, kind, fun, happy videos like the ones that you're putting out, maybe we might bring more of that into our own lives as well. So from my heart to your heart, a massive thank you for that. And one of the things I always like to ask people is, you are an inspiration in terms of the Global Goodwill Ambassadors, in terms of everything you've done in lots of different foundations, charities, and helping people humanitarian wise. If you were, say, let's say 100 years of age, and you are standing on the stage and all your videos and all your recordings, including even this one, were not there, what messages would you like to leave with the world that you haven't mentioned so far as well?
wow, that's a weighty one. It brings me to a thought of somebody who was about that age, um, who I posted this video, but it wasn't my video. I posted it because of its impact. Was was the man? I think his name was Winston, who smuggled out 600 children during the Holocaust, and um, he never he got the kids out of the country and everything. And here it was, he was now at a very old age. And what they did was they invited him, telling him he was going to get an award or something, and but they wouldn't tell him what it was. And the whole audience was filled with members were the children that he had saved. And it was such a powerful message. And I know in looking at him, he was a humble man, and in looking at him, I know that he was filled with a joyous spirit that is the exact way I want to feel when my time comes. I want to know that I made some kind of impact on people. Um, Other than that, I can't think of any other needs that I have. Certainly not anything financial or anything. If I had that, that would be, well, I don't know if I have a word for it. That would be an ultimate blessing.
Yeah, and that's lovely. Yeah, and it goes back to that giving to others is the greatest gift that we can give to ourselves. And just we're running out of time, so I'd love to know, Richard, you're still young and you're in, like most people call it, the third act. What would you say? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Um, well, I don't see really changing too much of what I'm doing. Maybe getting better at it. Like, I think the next 5 years for me, I'm retired now, so my retirement time is doing what I can to help people. And if anything, like, I'll try to be better at everything that I do, and probably be better with friendships, and encourage more people to um, that are on platforms that believe there's the only thing they can do. With business people, a lot of them I've said, look, every time every time I get something from somebody that's in certain categories of business, they don't even really know me. They're following me, and they hit me with this, like, I do this or I do that. I can edit videos. I can save you money on your. That's the first message that I get. And I'm thinking, if anything, cold calls don't work. They only work in the old system of thinking if you make 20 cold calls, you're going to get one. Today, with social media, people want to know a little bit about you. Take the time, read somebody's profile. It is hard work, but a person who you trust, whether it be instinctively or because you talk to them, has a lot more impact on you, and you have a lot better chance of getting a result that you want, that they ask for, because now they trust you.
I love that. Yeah, no, I love that. And Richard, just as I said, we've run out of time, but can you tell us how people can get in touch with you? I'm assuming LinkedIn, or is there a website?
There's LinkedIn for me personally, for Global Goodwill Ambassadors. There is a website, and that is Global Goodwill Ambassadors with an S, ambassadors.org. And Lisa gets back to everybody who sends in anything to them, and that crew takes good care of that organization. As far as life lesson series, follow me on LinkedIn. Just see my post. You might like some, you might like them all, you might do it, but I don't have anything. I intentionally don't want a website. I have no intentions of using. I could build my own website. I just don't want to go there. I'm truly trying to, in my third chapter, as you said, just do good for the purpose of doing good.
No, I love that. Well, if anybody out there has not seen Richard's posts, have a look on LinkedIn. He's got 1.25 million followers, and I follow him, and I have to say really is a true inspiration. Richard, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I wish you every success going forward.
Thank you. You as well, Doug. I've enjoyed it.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
My name's Doug Gordon, and you've been listening to Richard DiPilla on Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories. I'll be back next week with another inspirational guest. In the meantime, if you need to get in touch, please contact me at dougdgordon.com. From all of us here in the team of the show, I wish you a truly inspirational week and look forward to speaking to you next time. Bye for now.